Okay, let's start. Hello again and welcome to our workshop on product delivery cycle for voice. I'm glad to see so many faces here, especially after lunch. I know it's the final day, a lot of people are leaving. So the goal of our workshop is to have you guys leave this room today with a framework of how to build and deliver voice products successfully end to end. Before we start, let me just quickly introduce our team. So the three of us here are from Connected, which is a Toronto-based product delivery firm, and we do a lot of innovative work, and we sort of developed our own framework and approach to building successful innovative products with new technologies, which we call the Connected Playbook, and today we will be using the subset of this playbook, which is specifically targeted at voice-first products. So my name is Polina. I'm a product manager. We also have over there Tim, who is our product designer, and Lee, who is our engineering lead. And the three of us really lead the Connected work with voice-first products. So briefly setting your expectations for this session. So first of all, get ready for some intensive hands-on work. You will have to work in teams, and your team is your table. There's no escape, so can I please ask you to join a table over there. People at the back, can I please ask you join the tables at the front? This is going to be collaborative and quite fast-paced, so try to assist people in your team and share your knowledge as you go. So now, just 1 minute, briefly introduce yourselves to people at your table so that you know who actually you're going to be working with. All right, thank you. I hope you briefly introduced yourselves. Okay, let's move on. Thank you, guys. So the second thing to keep in mind today, which is also important, we will really keep it high level. So today we are not going to design the voice UI or draft dialogues for you and Alexa. We will focus on the end-to-end product delivery process, which starts from the very early stage of research and ends with launching your product to the market and evolving your product. So today it's more about scoping, about planning out a successful voice product engagement. And finally, in today's workshop, we are going to use some brand names which we are really familiar with. Just please keep in mind that they are fictional. We are using them for the sake of you getting the business context faster. Those brands are just a fiction here. So why is product delivery process so important for voice? There are a couple of reasons. And in the first place, we are really operating in a new domain with so many unknowns, where the risks of bringing a product to the market and not succeeding are very high. So we developed an almost scientific process for this, to help you guys succeed. So first of all, it's a brand new technology, and your engineering teams and your design teams are not really familiar with the platforms. The platforms are continuously growing and adding new features, so it's really hard to stay tuned. And there are many risks where you can ideate and come up with a great idea, but it's not going to be feasible. The second thing to keep in mind is that it's a brand new user interface, which there are no guidelines which you can be familiar with, like for web or for mobile design, and also the user habits of interacting with the devices are still being formed as we work. So that's another risk. Secondly, it's a brand new marketplace. about how do you promote it, how do you monetize it, and the ways of promotion and monetization are new as well. And finally, whatever you build for voice assistants right now, be it Amazon Alexa, Google Assistant, or Cortana, you need to keep in mind that your product is also part of a different product. It's part of the smart speaker, or part of the smart car, or wherever your assistant lives. So you need to also think about the use cases and how users actually use smart speakers in the home before even starting work on your voice app for the smart speaker. So those are the core things to keep in mind, and which bring us to the understanding that it's extremely important to have a rigorous process for product development, which would help you decrease those risks as you go and bring a successful product to market. And without further ado, let's jump into some practice. We will start with the first exercise, which we will do in groups. So Tim and Guy currently are giving out 2 case studies. One case study is about Walmart, and the other case study is about the city of Toronto, both of which built a voice application for Google Assistant and Amazon Alexa. Together with your team, you will have 5 minutes to read through the case studies, compare them, discuss, and answer one question: how the product development process in the Walmart example was different from the city of Toronto. You will have 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, you will hear a scary sound. That means you need to stop the exercise. Work together. I can see one volunteer here. Yes, please. Here's a mic coming in.
So the key difference that my table saw between Walmart and Toronto was that Toronto first identified a real user problem and then figured out if voice would be the right medium to interface and solve that problem, while Walmart instead wanted to jump on a bandwagon and create a feature just for feature's sake.
Very good, very good. So that's a great point. Is there anything else that you noticed which was different? Please, we have an answer over there. Let's repeat this for everybody.
So we talked about the user research aspects of it. So City of Toronto did looking into the user's need first compared to the Walmart. Yeah.
Okay, so great. They started with the user. They started with user research and understanding user needs. Anything else? Please.
Yeah, the City of Toronto team also did like a solution alternative type of work where they compared different tools for the job.
Exactly.
And I think not all, if you're stuck with the tool in the beginning and you basically center around that may not be hitting the problem.
So basically, what the City of Toronto did, they didn't just build something for voice, they identified the user need, and then they thought of the very different ways a product could solve it. They thought of a mobile app, they thought of a website. How did they make the decision? Please.
They valued context above anything else, so they didn't just choose one because, they focused their research on asking the right questions clearly, because the answers that they got from users was about my hands being dirty and things like that, which means that they're prioritizing their research not just to find out, maybe to that bandwagon question, what's the coolest one, but like what's the right one.
Great. So they prioritized user research and user validation over making assumptions. And final comment?
I think it's an attitude matter as well. The Walmart assume they know what you want to be and they assume they assume from the beginning that consumers want to know the SEO to be.
That's a great point. They assume that they know what the users want. And this is kind of a trap in which it's easy to fall if you're a developed company and you already have your user base on other platforms, web, mobile. You actually know what users want, but you don't know what they want on voice. So that's a whole new story. So you really need to start with user validation early. That's curious how you found this point, but there are and another one, but there's one you actually missed. So core recommendations. Start with user needs, not product ideas. Don't assume anything. Make a full list of user needs in your segment, even more than your current value proposition is already addressing. Map them to the market, to the voice market, and see whether there's a place for opportunity. Second, involve engineering from day one. So one thing which the Walmart team struggled with, they first had this idea and then they handed it off to the engineering team and they had to get rid of a number of features just because they were not feasible. So engineering, because it's a brand new technology, really needs to go hand in hand with design and product and start from day one. Validate each step with the users. Another trap, typically, we do research, we identify the product idea, and we go ahead to building it and then launching it to the market. If you're operating within many unknowns, user validation needs to go step by step. So we created a value proposition, we validated. We created the voice user interface, we validated, and so on. This way, by the time you get to MVP or to launching anything to the market, it will already be set up for success. And the final thing, which you actually did catch, that's great, you cannot port everything to voice. There are use cases where doing something by hand, on mobile, on web, or on any other media is much easier and faster than with voice. For example, this company wanted to create greeting cards by voice. It's much easier to just go on your laptop and do a couple of clicks, personalize it and send it, rather than say, Alexa, can you change text? Alexa, change the text to something else, right? So you're laughing, and I'm glad to hear that, but it's one of the traps which somehow catches a lot of companies and innovators. So that was a little bit of theory, but we're here for the workshop. So our second exercise will be actually trying to plan out end-to-end work on a voice product. So at Connected, we created something that we call a playbook, and we use it for scoping any innovative work. Basically, it's a deck of cards, which is much bigger than this deck, and it involves all the different activities that product team, design team, and engineering team do while working on a product. And that will start with understanding user needs, so one-on-one interviews, diary studies, observation research, engineering activities like feasibility validation, and so on. And we use these cards to lay out the project even before we start working, and then we look at it and we see, oh, is it set up for success or no? So today we will use a small subset of these cards, not very scary, but you will have to do some work to plan out a real engagement. So inside the deck there are cards which look like this, and those are the core steps in product development. There are red cards, and they signify anything which involves the user, where you get information from the user. User research, user validation, tracking the metrics. Secondly, there are engineering activities, preparing your skill for certification, QA, and so on. Product management and design activities, so road mapping, product definition, value proposition design, ideation. And finally, there are iterative loop cards. So if you feel that, for example, between ideation and value proposition statement, you will need to do this a bunch of times, taking ideas to users and back again, you can mark this iterative loop with these cards, all right? So now it's your turn. We will hand you out the playbooks, and together with your team, your goal is to plan out work on this project. So Longman Pearson is one of the biggest publishers in the world for ESL, so for students who are learning English. And the things that they produce are numerous. So those are CDs, workbooks, audiobooks for learners of English. And they really feel that voice is the next big thing for them. They really want to be present on smart speakers and use them to help their students learn easier and better. However, at this point, they have no idea what the product should look like. So they need to structure this work in order to first identify what the users want, and then define it, build it, and launch it successfully. At this moment, Guy and Tim will give one deck to each group here. The way I would suggest you do it, first start with laying out the core cards of the core steps in product development. The first one being understanding user needs, designing the value proposition, that's what you are going to build, refining the voice user interface, that's how the interaction is going to take place, what are the actual utterances you're gonna use, build and evolve. Evolve is after MVP, what do you do with your products? Do you add new features? Do you pivot? Do you create a set of products, actually? And then keep building each stage. So for example, for understanding user needs, you could go with business research, you could go with user research, and so on. So under each stage, lay out the activities which you think are necessary to achieve that result. Be aware that you don't need to use all the cards. Just use the cards which you think are relevant, and then together we will compare our results, all right? To do this activity, you will have 15 minutes, and the time starts now. Guys, if you have questions, put your hand up and one of us will come and help you. Okay.
And I'm putting technical feasibility review under value proposition.
Remember that engineering comes in early, and you keep the feasibility validation going on and on. The music is okay. Okay, thank you everyone. We will have to stop our exercise at this point. I know you didn't finish everything, but let's have a seat and discuss our work together. So everybody take your seat. Thank you. Yes, take photos of your work and then share them with us. Thank you. Okay, is everybody done with the photos? Thank you so much. I've seen some good work. Now it's time for feedback. In our regular workshop, we would definitely give everybody a chance to go through their layout and discuss this together. But today we have so many people and only 45 minutes, so we will have to actually present like a minimum viable answer for you. But before we do that, just give yourself a huge round of applause. I know you worked hard. All right. So I think everybody figured the core steps, but let's take a look at the activities which we would ideally include in each step. And like I said, there are some extra cards, so I will show you like the minimum set of activities, but you could definitely do more and go into more detail. So for understanding user needs, the first thing is doing user research. We need to go into the field. We need to go into the field and actually learn about what the users are doing, how are they learning the language, what are their pains, gains, and jobs, and how we can address them. We would also do business research in parallel to understand what existing business assets there are that we can leverage for a voice app. In parallel, like I said, engineering needs to start from day one. So engineering in parallel would be doing platform exploration. They need to learn about the limitations, the possibilities, the current feature set. And at the end of this stage, I see you have some questions. We will go back to it at the end. You cannot see the slide? It's too light. Unfortunately, we couldn't fix it today.
They have an issue with this room since this morning.
Everybody will get my contact, and I will share the deck with you, and I'm happy to engage in conversation to follow up with any questions that you have. So you finish this stage with having a user profile where you know the sorted jobs, pains, and gains of each user. And then we go into value proposition design. So we need to decide what exactly we're going to build, which will address the user needs. So we do product ideation. Everybody is familiar with techniques for ideation, brainstorming, sketching, and so on. And in the parallel, the engineering team would do some validation so that the design team and the product team don't go into building something crazy. So they work as a cross-functional team. We would create a low-fidelity prototype. Don't invest any money before you validate your idea. So a role play or somebody sitting behind the curtain like Wizard of Oz pretending to be Alexa is enough to validate our ideas. And then we take it back to the users and collect feedback from our users to focus on one idea which works best for them. And we do this a number of times. So ideally, maybe the first time you do it, you will not come up with the best idea. At the end, after you iterate a little bit, you create the value proposition statement. So we are building an app for Amazon Alexa, which will help students learn new vocabulary. That's the value proposition statement. and we define the MVP. So for us to test this value proposition, we need to build these 3 features. This will be the minimum viable experience which we will launch to the market. Then we go to refining, oh my God, sorry. We go to refining the voice user interface. So we design the voice UI. The engineering team still keeps validating every step that we do from the technical standpoint. We do a high fidelity prototype, so something which would actually simulate Alexa voice or Google Assistant's voice and would work on the device. And we take it to users again. And believe me, if you just draft something on paper, it may seem good to you, but when you validate your skill with users, you will redo it 100%. So user validation at every single step. And we iterate again. Finally, we build the MVP, and we launch it to market. We didn't go into much of engineering here. You could dive deeper into that. And then we look at how the MVP behaves on the skill store or in the market. And at this stage, it's still exploration, and we build the MVP not for the business success, so to say, but it's still experimentation. We track the metrics. In parallel, we would run continuously user research to gather quantitative feedback from our users. And then we decide what we build next. So we have the MVP, we may have crafted the MVP, changed it a little bit, and then we continue developing the product based on the data that we collect from the users. And this is an iterative loop. So I know this was a very quick high-level overview, and there are many more activities that we could dive into. Please, I will share my contact details. Get back to me with any questions that you have. You can download the Connected Lab full playbook and use it from this link. And I think I will leave it at this. I know this was a very fast-paced workshop. I hope it was useful for you. We took pictures of each of your layouts, so let's keep in touch. And we will get back to you with more feedback on the work you've done today. And as a summary, start with understanding user needs, involve engineering from day one, and validate frequently each step. Thank you so much, and stay connected. These are our contact details.